Hey everybody, it's Cooper here, and welcome to the first answer video in my my question and answer series. And I'm only doing a couple answers per video so that I can keep it like a running series. And if you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask me that you want to see answered in a video, please check the description of this video and you will see a link to the question portion of the video. I will not be posting more question videos, only answer videos from now on, so all the questions you guys ask are going to be taken from the comment section of that very first video. And if you don't see your question answered in this video, but you've already asked a question, it doesn't mean I'm not going to answer it, it just means that it didn't make it in the first video here. So for the future answer videos, I'll be taking questions that have been previously asked and then new ones as well. So like I said, if you don't see your question answered here, don't worry because it might be answered in a future video. So our first question comes from Dark Insanity, and he says, when it comes to collecting, is it mostly a hobby or do you have an attachment to what you do? And my answer to that is I don't have an attachment to everything, but there are certain aspects of collecting and of my collection that I do have an attachment to. I never had a Sega system growing up. I never had an Atari, so stuff like that, it's just a hobby to collect. And you know, I will play some Sega games, and I did play Sega growing up. I just never owned one. But stuff like Nintendo 64 and Super Nintendo and GameCube, I had those systems growing up, as well as a PS1, PS2, and original Xbox and stuff like that. So I do have some pretty good memories with all those systems, and I do have an attachment specifically to a few games like Mario 64, Donkey Kong Country 2, Animal Crossing on the GameCube, stuff like that. So you will see in my Memories of series, I've pre-recorded a few episodes for that, and you'll see me talk more in depth about my memories and my history with particular games, and that'll give you some insight into, you know, my connection with some of the stuff that I have in my collection. The next question comes from Sneaky Mutt, and he asks, how many fantastic N64 systems do you have? And currently, I don't have any. And in my collection before, I had all of them except Smoke, I believe. But since selling my previous collection, I haven't been able to find any since. And you know, I found a couple here and there that don't have the boxes or anything, but since I only collect stuff that is complete in the box, I haven't found a system with the box yet for my collection. The next question comes from Jake Hayes, and he asks, why didn't you keep your N64 collection since it was almost complete? Did it have to do with the moving process? And yes, it had 100% everything to do with the moving process. Basically, I was offered a job and I had 10 days, I think it was, to get from Florida to California and start work. So I didn't have a car at that time, and I had absolutely no way of transporting anything, let alone storing it when I got there, and the option of getting a storage unit in Florida and leaving everything there was just not an option. So unfortunately, it had to go with the rest of the collection, and I had every game and every box. I was still missing some manuals, but for the most part, it was complete. And it does suck to not have that stuff anymore, but getting the stuff is a little more fun than having it all in the end. So I'm starting my collection again. You might be able to see a little bit back here of the N64 stuff. So eventually I'll have a complete collection again, and I'm enjoying the process of getting there for a second time. Our next question comes from Non-Tubers, my friend Kevin. You guys probably remember him. We made some videos in the past together. He says, who are you going to vote for president in 2016, and what is your favorite kind of bean? First off, for the president question, I am choosing to not vote. If I was forced to vote, I would vote for Bernie Sanders, but I'm not huge into politics, and I know that I wouldn't vote for Trump, but I don't want these kind of comments coming from me to start any sort of drama or anything like that. I don't care who you guys support. Technically I would be considered a Democrat, but I don't even I don't even like to put a label on anything like that. Basically, you know, I have some democratic views, but I choose not to vote because, honestly, I think that, like, in the end, it doesn't really matter who you vote for. They're all kind of controlled by big business and the media and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, not to be, like, super weird or anything, but I'm just choosing not to vote. The second part of the question, what's my favorite kind of bean? My favorite kind of bean is a green bean. Our next question comes from Smithy98, and they ask, favorite Wii U game? And this one's going to be a toss-up between Pikmin 3 and New Super Mario Land 3D, or New Super Mario World, or whatever it's called. Pikmin 3 came out first. I beat that one within a couple days, and I really enjoyed it. I've loved all the Pikmin games in the series so far, and that one I think is probably the best one, in my opinion. The second one was not as good as the other two. And then Mario World, to me it feels like a mix between Mario 64 and Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo, which in my opinion are two of the best Mario games, so combining them into this new Wii U title makes it pretty awesome. The next question comes from Waffles and Syrup, and they ask, how often do you go out searching for games, and what's the typical routine if you have one? What I mean is, do you always hit Goodwill and random thrifts, usually, or, like, do you go on Monday and Tuesday Goodwill and Wednesday in pawn shops and so on, stuff like that? Just curious, because lately I haven't been finding stuff like I used to. Honestly, I don't have a routine at all, and I never actually go out looking for games. I'm going to all the Goodwills and stuff anyway for my job. I resell on eBay and Amazon, mostly Amazon now, but video games is a very, very small portion of what I do, and I'm going to be getting into more things later, manufacturing my own products and having them imported from China and stuff like that, but basically I never actually go looking for games. I'm just going to the Goodwills anyway for my work, and if I happen to come across them, obviously I'll pick them up and stuff like that. Now that I live in Washington, as opposed to Florida, there aren't really that many pawn shops, and the ones that are here, I don't really go to that much. They're not as good as the ones in Florida. So, yeah, I don't really have a routine, but I will agree with you that there's not much out there. You're definitely not finding stuff like you used to, neither am I. There's just a lot more collectors, and there's a lot more resellers who know what to look for, and the combination of collectors and resellers, and then you have the normal people who will see a game at Goodwill and buy it for themselves, not considering themselves a collector or planning to resell it or anything, but the combination of those three groups of people I think are increasing, and it's just, it's making stuff a lot harder to find. And our last question comes from Zelda Collector Freak, and this one is probably going to be a little controversial, and along with the presidential candidate questions, I don't want this to cause any drama, and I believe by now it's pretty much old news, and it's not something that's fun to talk about, but I figured I would answer the question both to tell my side of the story, to let my subscribers who haven't heard the story know kind of what went on, and basically clear the air. So they ask, hey Sick, many of your subscribers might feel you are not an honest person and that you're only doing this for the money. Did you ever apologize and explain to your subscribers what happened with your dispute with Cash for Games Canada? I feel like your subscribers deserve an explanation for that misunderstanding and will greatly help you get back into the gaming collecting community. So there's a couple parts to this question here. The first part where they say that I might be only doing this for the money, that part really makes no sense. When I sold my collection, I sold it for about a third of what it was worth, and the videos that I make here on YouTube maybe make $1 a month. So to say that I'm doing any of this for the money is completely ridiculous. The second part, they're referring to when I sold my collection on Nintendo Age, or when I attempted to sell my collection on Nintendo Age. So, like I mentioned earlier, I was living in Florida and I got a job offer in California, which I had to start within like 10 days, or 10 or 14 days, something like that. So I posted up on Nintendo Age and I started selling my collection piece by piece. People were buying small bundles here and there, and I had put in the post that I was hopefully going to find someone to buy everything, and I had quite a bit of interest in people purchasing everything, but I never posted like a price or anything like that. And going off of like eBay prices, like general eBay prices, I came to the number around 60,000 to 65,000 is what my collection was worth, and that is eBay prices before taking out fees and shipping and all that. And that might seem really high, but you have to take into consideration that I had a full Nintendo 64 set. I had, including handheld systems, I had over 50, 60, 70 boxed, complete and boxed systems. I had tons and tons of promotional materials. I had 4 kiosks and 4, 5, or 6 light-up signs and just tons of stuff. So basically, I had no way to transport it with me, like I mentioned in one of the previous answers, and the only option I had was to sell it, and to sell it quick. And someone named Cash for Games Canada on Nintendo Age contacted me. I believe his name was Ken, and we kind of negotiated back and forth for a bit, and came to a price that was about a third of what the collection was worth. But he was having some problems. I guess he told me that he had a business partner, and they were both going to fly down from Canada to Florida and basically pack up the entire collection and ship it back to themselves. And I guess he said he had a game store in Canada. And the first problem arose when he said that his business partner didn't have a passport, and this was on a Saturday. I had to be leaving by the next Friday, and so they couldn't do anything about it until Monday. And he said that he was going to try and get like a 24-hour rush delivery on a passport, which means they wouldn't have even had the passport until Tuesday, and essentially couldn't leave until that day. But there's no way packing and shipping everything could be done in just a couple days. And obviously I know, because I sold the collection and did that, and it took 3 or 4 days just to do that. So that was the first problem. He couldn't get there in time, basically. And I had told him plenty of times that I really preferred texting or emailing or talking through messages or something like that, but he insisted on calling me every time. And I'm the type of person who has a hard time saying no to someone, so even when I deal with people on Craigslist or anything, I always text. I hate phone calls because there's too much pressure. I feel what's the word? I feel intimidated because I don't like conflict, and if I say no to someone, or if I make an offer to someone that they don't like, I don't like any negative results that can come from that. I don't like when people get angry with me or anything like that. So I did feel intimidated, and just to be completely honest, he wasn't a very nice guy. He was kind of pushy, he was very aggressive, and he said specific things to persuade me to take his offer, and tried to almost convince me that the collection was worth less than what I knew it was. And I'm not saying that he forced me to accept his offer and anything like that, but you know, when someone is a little bit aggressive and they're kind of pushy and stuff, and they act like that, it just makes it harder to say no. So he was one of the people that contacted me to buy the collection. I had several other interested parties, and unfortunately, he was the only one that was outside of the US. Everyone else was in the United States, and one person was particularly close. The person who bought my collection requested that I never say who they are and tell who bought it, because of all the stupid drama that unfolded on Nintendo Age, and there was multiple threads about it, and Cash for Games Canada trying to slander my name and trying to play the victim. And so basically what happened is someone named Kamal contacted me. He called me, and he said that he was the third member of the group with Ken and his business partner who was supposed to be buying my collection. And this was the first time I had ever heard of a third person in on the deal. And he told me, he sent me a photo, and he told me that he has his game store and Ken has his game store. And they were going to be buying my collection together and then splitting it evenly. And essentially what happened is he went to the bank and got a bank draft in my name for exactly half the amount of what I was supposed to be selling the collection for. And when you live in Canada and you're getting a bank draft for someone in the United States, it has to be converted to American money from Canadian. And when you do this, there's a fee for that is non-refundable. There's no way you can get it back. And for the amount that the collection was selling for, even half of that, the fee was not a small number. I think it was like $700-800, something like that. And this is the bank draft that he got. He was supposed to give it to Ken so that Ken could give it to me, plus Ken was going to give me his own. And that would be, I would have two bank drafts, each for half the amount of what I was selling the collection for. Basically, he told me that Ken cut him out of the deal because he wanted the entire thing for himself. And he was just incredibly rude and greedy. And this completely turned me off to dealing with him at all. Because if he's willing to cut his friend out of the deal and ruin their relationship over these video games, how could I trust him in any way? How could I invite this guy into my home for 3 or 4 days to go through my collection and purchase it for me, be there in my house, and if he had come down and started to look around and said, you know what, I thought you had more complete games, there's too many manuals missing, there's too many stickers on the boxes, blah blah blah, I have to offer you $5,000 less. There's no way that I could say no. Like I said, I would be super intimidated by that, but at the same time, I had to leave. And if he had flown down and offered me $5,000 less and I said no, then what would happen to the collection? I still had to leave. There's no way I could refuse any offer that he made once he was there, because I was supposed to be holding everything. As soon as he contacted me, the first thing he told me was, I'm interested in it, but only if you stop selling anything else right now. Don't sell anything else to anybody. And so there's no way that I could refuse any offer that he would have made. So Kamal showed me the photo of the bank draft he had in my name, and he explained that he was going to give that to Ken to give to me, but Ken told him, oh, you couldn't get it to me in time, blah blah blah, which makes absolutely no sense, because Kamal he was supposed to mail it to Ken, but Kamal offered to drive it to him that night, which I believe was Saturday or Sunday. He offered to drive it to him, and he lived like 2.5 hours away, and Ken basically told him, no, you lost your shot. And that's bullshit, honestly. And so Ken, he's just a slimy person, and I did not want to deal with him. I didn't feel comfortable, I felt intimidated, and I felt I was lied to, obviously. He never told me there was a third person involved, and he definitely never told me that he cut them out of the deal. And so he posted on Nintendo Age saying how, I backdoored him and all this crap, and everyone on Nintendo Age just loves to jump to conclusions, and they love to believe things without hearing both sides of the story or knowing any of the facts. And basically, he had texted me, or he sent me something that I received, I think on Sunday morning, and it was something to the effect of, we're going to put a rush delivery on the passport, and this was a Sunday. Post office is closed. So there's no way that could happen until Monday. That's an important part of the story. And and I basically responded, and I believe this was Sunday morning, and I said I'm very sorry, but I have decided to sell it to someone else who lives closer to me. They can pick it up sooner, and I just didn't feel comfortable selling it to him. And we never opened up a transaction on Nintendo Age. We never exchanged any money. Nothing ever happened. We never had a final agreement. And we were in the process of coming to a price. Like, he had told me a price, and I was going to be willing to accept it until I heard from Kamal. So, basically, I stopped posting on Nintendo Age because of all the drama. It's just madness. It's just ridiculous what people have said and what people have posted on there. And basically, I sold it to someone else who was much closer to me. They drove over the very next day and got everything. And so if I had sold it to Ken, I would have been late getting to California, and it just would have taken way too long. I couldn't trust him, and it just wasn't going to work out, so I didn't sell it to him. The person I sold it to was able to get it all out of my house, and I still had days before I had to leave. So that was very helpful. And basically, the guy that I sold it to was originally offering less than Ken, but I got him to match his price because I just told him, like, I have an offer of this much, and if you can do that, then I'll sell it to you because it has to go now. I can't wait for the other guy. So he actually ended up giving me like $100 more, which compared to, everything that was in there, $100 was nothing. It was just something nice for him to do. But basically all this happened, and there were a couple threads posted on Nintendo Age, and if you're really interested, you can still find them. And I would recommend going and reading Ken's side of the story, because I don't want this to be just like, oh, I'm right and he's wrong. There's obviously two sides to every story. But basically, after I told Ken that I was selling it to someone else, he went into full attack mode and posted all this stuff on Nintendo Age, and calling me all sorts of things, and other people were chiming in, obviously not knowing my side of the story, not knowing any of the facts, and people on there are just insane. And I'm not saying everyone on Nintendo Age is a bad person or anything, but a lot of them are crazy. People were posting things like saying, oh, I should be arrested and I should be fired from my job and all this crap, and it's just ridiculous, honestly, because I didn't feel comfortable selling it to someone who cut their friend out of a deal because they're greedy. That's not the kind of person I want to deal with. I don't think that's the kind of person anybody wants to deal with. And even before he found out that he wasn't going to be buying the stuff from me, he wasn't all that nice of a person, and he definitely wasn't after. He even somehow he did something. He found out my parents' phone number and called them to tattle on me, basically. And that's just ridiculous. My parents, I don't even know if my parents knew I was selling my collection. They lived 3,000 miles away from me and had nothing to do with it. And for him to do something like that, it's just insane. It reminds me of high school drama. And I don't like drama. I don't like being involved in it. I don't like seeing it, hearing about it, reading it. It's just stupid. There's no point to it. It's just a bunch of people crying and whining. And so basically, he tried to say that he was out all of this money when he could not provide one piece of paperwork or one piece of evidence to support that at all. He tried to tell me that he lost $700 to $800 on this bank draft that he got into my name, and when he sent me the picture, it was the exact same picture that Kamal had sent me. So Ken was trying to pass off Kamal's bank draft as his own, trying to say that he lost that money when in fact it was Kamal that lost that money, and that's bullcrap. He tried to show me receipts of an email for an airplane ticket that he bought, but within 24 to 48 hours you can cancel that, and it was within like 4 hours that he showed that to me. So it's just ridiculous. He was lying, trying to get me to pay him money that he never spent because he felt cheated because he missed out on buying my collection and decided that, you know, oh well, if I'm not going to get the collection, at least I'm going to get some free money out of him, which is bullcrap. And I believe there was 1 or 2 mods that were involved with the whole thing, and I provided them the information. I gave them the picture. You know, he tried to say it was his bank draft, but it was Kamal's, and he tried to pass it off as his own. That's just sleazy. That's disgusting. And basically, everyone was kind of on his side until Kamal posted in the thread and explained what happened. Because up until that point, I wasn't even posting on Nintendo Age anymore. I just decided to step away from it because it's just ridiculous and it was just toxic. So, when Kamal posted his side of the story, a few people started to realize, oh, okay, I can kind of understand why Cooper wouldn't want to deal with that person. You know, he cut his friend out of the deal because he's greedy and wants the collection for himself, for his own store. If someone's willing to do that to their friend, I don't know what they're going to do to me. I can't trust that person. I can't be responsible for having them fly into the country from a different country and be in my house and buy my collection, be around myself, my, at the time, girlfriend, and my animals, and all this stuff. It just wouldn't have been safe. I don't trust him. I didn't feel comfortable. And that's what it came down to. He tried to really play the victim when he's not. I understand that he lost some time talking to me over those 2 or 3 days, and you know, and stuff like that, but he was not out any money at all, no matter how much he tries to say he was. And to all the people on Nintendo Age that were saying things like I should lose my job and I should be thrown in jail and blah blah blah, all this crap, those people are just ridiculous and they're out of their minds. Those are the type of people who like to jump to conclusions. They only hear one side of the story, and they don't know any of the facts or anything before wanting my head on a stake. And that's just ridiculous. And I'm sorry to have to make this video. I'm sorry to... I mean, this video is probably super long now, but I'm sorry to have to talk about this. I didn't want to, but I knew eventually someone was going to ask about it, and there's really nothing that I'm trying to hide. It's just something that's very uncomfortable, and like I said, I don't like drama, and that's basically what it is. So, you know, like I said, go and read the threads on there if you'd like both sides of the story, and just understand that he was not out any money like he tried to say he was. All the paperwork and stuff that he tried to provide was either stolen or was fully refundable and cancelable within 24 to 48 hours, and all this happened like within 12 hours maybe. So he's not out any money, just keep that in mind. And yeah, that's about it. So I'm not posting on Nintendo Age anymore, and that's about it. So I apologize to anyone that this has upset. I have apologized to Ken for wasting some of his time, but for him to steal a bank draft from someone else and claim it's his own to try and get me to send him money is just disgusting. And yeah, I'm sorry to any of my subscribers who this has upset, or anyone who chooses to unsubscribe or anything like that. That's completely fine. Yeah, I just thought that I would tell my side of the story since someone asked, and that's about it. So, most of these answer videos are not going to be like this. This is just something that needed to be said and needed to be put out there so that people can understand what actually happened and not just thinking whatever is posted on Nintendo Age is 100% truth, because it's really not. So yeah, I guess that's it for this question video. Like I said in the beginning, if your question didn't get answered, don't be afraid or anything. It might be answered in a future video. And if you have any more questions for me, check out the link in the description to the question video and post all your questions in the comment section there. I'll be taking questions from there to answer all these future videos, and I'm planning on doing about one of these a week. And I guess whatever day this video is uploaded on, since I don't have like a set schedule yet, each additional answer video will be 1 week from then. So if this goes up on Tuesday, then my answer videos will be posted every Tuesday. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.